red frequency TV, the station where the signal is weak. But the stories are real. Tonight's transmission comes from someone who swears that every time the sun went down, the portraits inside his grandmother's house weren't just hanging on the wall. They were watching. He says the house wasn't old. It wasn't abandoned. Nothing about it looked haunted. But every night after midnight, the silence became unbearable. The ordinary sounds of the house began to feel intentional. And the longer he stayed, the more convinced he became that something inside those walls was waiting for him to look back. Whether you believe him is up to you. Lock your doors, turn down the lights, and whatever you do, don't look at the portraits. This is Red Frequency TV. Don't watch alone. I don't know if anybody else ever felt this before, but if you grew up spending the night at your grandma's house, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm 22 now. I'm staying with my grandma while I get my life together. And for the most part, everything's normal. Her house ain't old or run down. It's nice. Smart TV, nice furniture, clean kitchen, updated appliances. Honestly, if you walked in here during the day, you'd think I was tripping if I told you I hated being here at night. Because during the day, those pictures are just pictures. The second the sun goes down, they become something else. My grandma has family portraits all over the house. Pictures of my great-grandma, my great-great-grandma. Relatives I never even got the chance to meet. Every time I walk through the living room, it feels like they're all looking at me, not at the room, at me. I know what you're thinking. They're just portraits. That's exactly what I kept telling myself. Then there's one picture I hate more than all of them. It's this huge portrait hanging in the living room. Been there as long as I can remember. I grew up walking past it, never thinking twice about it until I got older. Now, I avoid looking at it after dark because I swear every single night it feels like its eyes follow me. Not in that movie way where the eyes actually move. It's worse. No matter where I'm standing, it always feels like it's already looking right at me. Like it knew where I was gonna be before I even got there. I tried ignoring it. I tried laughing it off. I even walked up to it one afternoon just to prove to myself I was being stupid. In the daylight, it looked completely normal. That should have made me feel better. It didn't, because the problem was never the daytime. It was what happened after everybody went to sleep. See, my grandma works early mornings, which means most nights I'm the last person awake in the house. And every single time the clock creeps past midnight, the whole place starts feeling different. I wish I could tell you exactly when that feeling started. I can't. One day, I just realized I had stopped getting up in the middle of the night, not because I wasn't thirsty, because I didn't want to walk through that living room. Every night, it'd be the same routine. I'd be lying on the couch, scrolling on my phone until I got tired. The TV would be off. The only light in the room would be the little glow from the Wi-Fi box and the street light leaking through the blinds. Then I'd put my phone down. The room would go completely dark. That's when it would start. Nothing would happen. And somehow, that was the worst part. The refrigerator would hum from the kitchen. The air conditioner would kick on. A cabinet would make that little tick sound from the wood settling. Normal sounds, sounds I've heard my whole life. But after midnight, every single one of them felt intentional, like the house wasn't making noise. It was responding to me. Sometimes I'd just lie there, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself I was overthinking it. "You 22, bro. Quit acting scary." I'd laugh at myself, roll over, close my eyes. Then that feeling would crawl right back over me. That heavy feeling, like somebody had just walked into the room. Not hearing footsteps, not hearing breathing, just knowing. You ever been completely alone, but your body refuses to believe it? That's exactly what it felt like. I started catching myself looking toward the hallway without even realizing it, looking toward the portraits, toward that big picture hanging on the wall. I kept telling myself not to look, 'cause every time I did, it felt like they were already looking back. One night, I finally said something to my grandma. I laughed while I said it, trying to make it sound like a joke. "Grandma, I know this gone sound crazy, but them pictures be creeping me out at night." She didn't laugh. She didn't even look up. She just kept doing what she was doing. Then she said something that I still think about to this day. My grandma didn't even stop what she was doing. She was standing at the kitchen counter, rinsing off a coffee mug, like I hadn't just told her something that had been eating at me for weeks. For a few seconds, the only sound in the room was the water running. Then she turned the faucet off, still without looking at me. She said, "Maybe you just got something on your conscience." I laughed. "Nah, Grandma, I'm serious." She finally looked over her shoulder, not scared, not surprised, just calm. The guilty always feel like somebody watching them. I ain't know what to say after that, because I wasn't guilty about nothing. At least, I didn't think I was. I brushed it off and went back to the living room. The whole conversation couldn't have lasted more than 30 seconds. But for some reason, that one sentence wouldn't leave my head. The guilty always feel like somebody watching them. That night, Grandma left for work a little before 5 in the morning, like she always does. I was the only one in the house. I locked the door behind her, watched her car back out the driveway. Then the taillights disappeared. The house got quiet, not normal quiet, heavy quiet, the kind of silence where every little sound suddenly matters. The refrigerator hummed. A vent pushed out a slow stream of air. Somewhere upstairs, something settled with a soft pop. I stood there for a second, listening. Then I caught myself doing something I never used to do. I looked toward the living room, toward the portraits. I couldn't even see them from where I was standing, but I knew exactly where they were. It felt like they knew exactly where I was too. I shook my head. "Nah, I'm tripping." I grabbed my phone and sat back down on the couch. I wasn't even paying attention to what I was scrolling anymore. Every few seconds, I'd look up, not because I saw something, because I felt something, like if I looked away for too long, I'd miss whatever was watching me. I kept telling myself I was letting Grandma's words get in my head. I wanted to believe that. I really did. Until the first time, I made the mistake of looking directly into my great-grandmother's eyes. I don't know what made me look. Maybe curiosity. Maybe I was tired of letting a bunch of old pictures get in my head. Whatever it was, I looked, not at the big portrait, at my great-grandma's picture. It was hanging on the wall with the rest of the family portraits. Same frame it had always been in. Same picture I'd walked past 1,000 times growing up. She looked normal, an old family photo, nothing more. I stood there for a few seconds just staring at it. Then I laughed at myself. "See, ain't nothing wrong with you." I turned around and walked into the kitchen to grab a bottle of water. Couldn't have been more than 10 seconds. I twisted the cap off, took one sip, started walking back. That's when my stomach dropped. The picture looked different, not dramatically, just enough. I stopped in the middle of the living room. No, I whispered it without even realizing. I walked closer, real slow. My heartbeat started picking up. It was the same picture, the same frame. Nothing had moved, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't looking where she was looking a few seconds ago. Now, it felt like she was looking directly at me. I leaned to the left. Her eyes still found me. I leaned to the right. Still looking. I took another step. Still looking. I told myself exactly what everybody watching this is probably thinking right now. That's how portraits work. That's what I wanted to believe. So I tested it. I walked all the way across the living room, never taking my eyes off the picture. She followed me, not with movement, with her gaze. I could feel it. Every step, every breath, every second. I finally looked away. I don't know why, but looking away felt worse, because now I had no idea if she was still looking at me, or if something else had started looking too. That was the first night. I made myself a rule. After midnight, I would never look directly at the portraits again. At the time, I thought that rule would protect me. I had no idea. I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. After that night, I stuck to my rule. If it was after midnight, I didn't look at the portraits. I didn't even glance in their direction. If I had to get water, my eyes stayed on the floor. If I walked through the living room, I kept my head down until I made it back to the couch. It sounds stupid. I know it does, but it worked. Or at least, I thought it did. Because even though I wasn't looking at them anymore, that feeling never left. It actually got worse. You ever walk into a room and instantly know somebody's looking at you? Not because you heard them, not because you saw them, you just know. That's what every night started feeling like. I'd be sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, and out of nowhere, the hairs on my arms would stand up. I'd slowly look around the room. Nothing. The TV was off. The kitchen lights were off. The hallway was empty. Everything looked exactly the way it always did, except it didn't feel the same. It felt occupied, not by a person, by a presence, the kind that doesn't make a sound, the kind that doesn't need to. One night, I decided I was done letting my imagination mess with me. I got up, walked over to every single family portrait. I looked at each one in broad daylight. Great-grandma, great-great-grandma, great-grandpa. Every face, every frame, every picture looked completely normal. I even laughed. Y'all really had me scared for no reason. I felt embarrassed, like I'd let a bunch of old pictures get the best of me. That night, I actually slept good for the first time in weeks. Then, Grandma left for work the next morning. I locked the front door behind her. The house got quiet. I grabbed my phone, sat back down on the couch. Everything felt normal for about 20 minutes. Then, the refrigerator kicked on. I jumped, not because of the sound, because right before it happened, I could have sworn somebody had whispered my name. Not loud, not clear, just enough to make me freeze. Marcus. I looked up so fast my neck hurt. The living room was empty. The hallway was empty. The kitchen was empty. I waited. Nothing. I told myself it had to be the refrigerator starting up. Had to be. But there was one problem. The whisper didn't come from the kitchen. It came from the wall with the family portraits. I didn't move. Not because I was brave. Because I couldn't. Every muscle in my body locked up. My eyes stayed glued to the floor. I kept repeating the same thing in my head. Don't look. You made yourself a room. Don't look. The house was dead quiet again. The refrigerator had stopped humming. The air conditioner wasn't running. Even the neighborhood outside felt still. I could hear my own heartbeat. Slow, heavy. Every beat felt longer than the last. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe 30 seconds. Maybe 5 minutes. When you're scared, time don't move the same. Finally, I forced myself to laugh. Nah, I'm tweaking. I grabbed the TV remote and turned the television on. Instantly, the room filled with light, noise, voices. It felt normal again. I sat there for almost an hour watching random videos I wasn't even paying attention to. Eventually, I forgot about it. Or I convinced myself I did. Around 1 in the morning, I turned the TV back off. The room went black. Immediately, that feeling came back, like somebody had been standing in the darkness the whole time, just waiting for me to turn the light off again. I reached for my phone. Battery dead. Seriously, I saw it. The charger was in the kitchen. For a minute, I actually debated just leaving it. That's when I realized how bad this had gotten. I was letting a hallway, and some old pictures stopped me from charging my phone. I shook my head. This is ridiculous. I stood up, took a deep breath, and started walking. One step, then another. The closer I got to the kitchen, the heavier the air felt, like the house was holding its breath. I kept my eyes exactly where they were supposed to be. On the floor, just like I'd promised myself. Past the couch, past the wall, past the portraits. I made it into the kitchen, grabbed the charger, plugged my phone in. Nothing happened. I actually smiled. See, I knew I was tripping. I picked my phone up and turned around to head back. Then, without thinking, I looked up. Not all the way, just enough to catch the reflection in the microwave door. The living room was behind me. The portraits were behind me, and in that reflection, for less than a second, I could have sworn there was someone standing perfectly still between the living room and the hallway, watching me. I spun around so fast I almost dropped my phone. Nothing. The hallway was empty. The living room was exactly how I'd left it. The couch, the TV, the coffee table, the family portraits, everything. I stood there for a long time, staring into that hallway, waiting for somebody, anybody, to step out. Nobody did. I looked back at the microwave. My reflection was the only thing staring back at me. I let out a nervous laugh. There you go again. I whispered to myself, scaring your own damn self. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But something didn't sit right, because whatever I'd seen, it wasn't standing in the hallway. It was standing in front of it, like it had been waiting between the living room and the entrance to the hall, exactly where I would have had to walk past it. I shook the thought out of my head. Nope. I grabbed my charger and hurried back to the couch. That night, I slept with the TV on. The next morning, sunlight poured through the windows like nothing had happened. I almost felt stupid until I walked into the living room. My grandma was dusting the shelves like she always did. She looked over at me and smiled. "Morning, baby. Morning." I grabbed a bottle of water and tried to act normal. Then she pointed toward the wall. "Since you ain't doing nothing, can you straighten them pictures up for me?" I froze. "What?" "The pictures." She nodded toward the family portraits. "They've been looking a little crooked lately." My stomach tightened. I slowly turned toward the wall. Every frame looked perfectly straight, at least to me. "I don't think they crooked." Grandma frowned. "They was this morning." She walked over without saying another word. She reached up and straightened one of the portraits, just a tiny adjustment, barely noticeable. Then another, then another. She stepped back. There, they look right now. I couldn't say anything because I would have sworn she had just straightened pictures that already looked perfectly straight. The rest of the day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Maybe I just hadn't noticed. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me again. That's what I kept telling myself until that night when I walked past the wall and realized every single portrait was tilted again, except one, the portrait of my great-grandmother. That one was perfectly straight. I stood there, just staring. Every picture on that wall was slightly crooked, not enough for anybody to notice if they walked by, just enough for somebody who'd been staring at those walls every day to know something wasn't right. My great-grandfather's portrait leaned a little to the left. My great-great-grandmother's leaned to the right. Another frame sat just barely off-center, but my great-grandmother's picture was perfectly straight. Perfect, like somebody had taken the time to line it up while leaving every other frame alone. I don't know why, but that bothered me more than if they had all been crooked. I walked over. Slowly, I told myself I was about to prove all of this was in my head. I reached up, straightened one frame, then another, then another. By the time I finished, every portrait was lined up perfectly. I stepped back. There, I actually smiled, satisfied. I turned around, walked into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator. The light spilled across the floor. I grabbed a bottle of water, closed the door. The kitchen went dark again. Before I could take a drink, I heard it. Tapped, tap, soft, like somebody flicked glass with their fingernail. I froze. A few seconds passed. Nothing. Then again. Tapped, tap. This time, it came from the living room. I didn't move. My eyes stayed locked on the kitchen floor. Another tap. Closer, not louder. Closer, like something wasn't trying to get my attention. It was trying to get me to look. My breathing got shallow. My mouth went dry. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to turn around. But another voice in my head, the one that had kept me from looking at those portraits all week, told me not to. I squeezed the water bottle so hard it started crinkling in my hand. The tapping stopped. Silence. Complete silence. I counted in my head. 1, 2, 3. By 10, I convinced myself it was over. I slowly turned around. The living room looked exactly the same. The couch, the TV, the coffee table, the hallway, the portraits. Then my eyes drifted to the wall. Every single frame was perfectly straight, except my great-grandmother's. Her portrait was the only one tilted now. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. I just stood there, staring at that one crooked frame, while every other portrait sat perfectly straight. My breathing got heavier. No, I whispered. I fixed all of these. I know I did. I remember running my hand across every frame, making sure each one was lined up. There is no way. There is no way. Only one of them could have moved. I wanted to walk over and straighten it. I really did. But something deep in my gut kept telling me, don't. So I backed away instead, slowly, never taking my eyes off that wall. I made it back to the couch, sat down, pulled my knees in, and just watched. Minutes passed. Nothing. The portrait never moved. It just hung there, crooked, waiting. Eventually, I laughed under my breath. Man, this house got me losing it. I grabbed my phone to distract myself. The screen lit up. At 2:43 a.m., I opened social media, scrolled for maybe 30 seconds. Then I felt it again, that same pressure, like somebody was standing so close behind me. I should have been able to hear them breathe. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Instead, I slowly lifted my phone. The black screen reflected part of the room behind me. The couch, the TV, the edge of the hallway. At first, I didn't notice anything. Then, I realized there was something in the reflection that wasn't in front of me. A shape, tall, perfectly still, standing where the hallway met the living room. I held my breath. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it. I kept staring at the reflection, trying to make sense of it. It wasn't moving. It wasn't walking toward me. It wasn't doing anything. It was just watching. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a shadow. Maybe it was the coat hanging by the hallway. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me again. I counted to 3. Then I turned around. The hallway was empty. I looked back at my phone. The reflection was empty too. I should have felt relieved. Instead, something hit me that made my blood run cold. If it was just my imagination, why, for those few seconds, was every portrait on the wall facing the hallway instead of me? I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I left every light in the living room on until the sun came up. By morning, everything looked normal again. The portraits were back to facing forward. My great-grandmother's frame wasn't crooked anymore. The hallway looked like a hallway. I kept replaying everything in my head. The whisper, the tapping, the reflection, the crooked frames, the feeling of somebody standing behind me. Every single time I came up with an explanation, something else ruined it. By that afternoon, I finally worked up the courage to ask my grandma another question. I tried to make it sound casual. Grandma, she looked up from her phone. Yeah, who put all these pictures up? She looked around the living room. Oh, them. Some of them been hanging there longer than you've been alive. I nodded. What about great-grandma's picture? Her smile faded, just for a second. Why are you asking about that one? I was just wondering. She stared at me for a moment, long enough to make me uncomfortable. Then she sighed. Your great-grandma loved family. She believed a house wasn't a home unless your people were watching over it. Watching over it. Those words echoed in my head. Watching. Not remembered. Not honored. Watching. I forced a laugh. That's kinda creepy when you say it like that. Grandma smiled. It ain't creepy. It just means you never really in that house by yourself. She went right back to scrolling on her phone, like she hadn't just said the most unsettling thing I'd ever heard. I couldn't stop thinking about it, not because I believed her, because I knew she believed what she said. That night, I told myself I wasn't getting up. Didn't matter how thirsty I got. Didn't matter if my phone died. I was staying on that couch until the sun came up. Around 3 a.m., I woke up. I don't remember falling asleep. The TV was off. The room was completely dark. For a second, I thought I was still dreaming. Then I realized something. The silence was gone. Somewhere in the living room, I could hear, very slow, very deliberate, footsteps. One. Then another. Walking across the hardwood floor, stopping just outside my line of sight. I stopped breathing. The footsteps stopped too. It was like whatever had been walking knew I was awake. I stayed completely still. My blanket was pulled up to my chest, and for the first time since all of this started, I was too scared to even move my eyes. The living room was almost completely dark. The only light came from the street lamp outside, slipping through the blinds and laying thin stripes across the floor. Just enough light to make out shapes, not enough to trust what I was seeing. I kept listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No refrigerator. No air conditioner. No cars outside. Just silence. Then, creak. The hardwood floor, right beside the couch. Not in the hallway. Not by the kitchen. Right beside me. Every hair on my body stood up. I wanted to jump up and run, but where was I going to go? To the hallway? To the kitchen? I'd have to walk past every single portrait to get there. So I stayed where I was. My eyes were locked on the edge of the blanket, covering my face. I kept praying under my breath, in the blood of Jesus Christ. Again, in the blood of Jesus Christ. Again, in the blood of Jesus Christ. The words came out so quietly, I could barely hear myself. Then, something changed. The feeling I'd had for weeks, the feeling of being watched, was gone. Not because whatever was there had left, because it wasn't watching me anymore. It had moved. Slowly, I looked toward the wall. The portraits, every single one of them, was facing forward, perfectly still, perfectly normal, but none of them felt like they were looking at me anymore. They were all looking at something else, something standing behind the couch, behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't, because whatever all those portraits had been staring at every night was finally close enough that I could feel its breath on the back of my neck. I closed my eyes, not because I thought it would save me, because I couldn't bring myself to turn around. Every part of me wanted to, every instinct screamed, run, but I couldn't move. That warm breath stayed on the back of my neck, slow, steady, like whoever or whatever was standing behind me was waiting to see what I'd do next. I kept praying under my breath, in the blood of Jesus Christ. Again, in the blood of Jesus Christ. Again, the words shook coming out of my mouth. Then, the breathing stopped. I waited. 1 second, 5 seconds, 10, nothing. I finally worked up enough courage to move. Slowly, I stood up from the couch. Every muscle in my body felt weak. I turned around. There was nobody there. The living room was empty. The hallway was empty. The kitchen was empty. I don't think I've ever felt relief that fast until I looked back at the wall. Every portrait, every single one, was staring directly at me. Not the way portraits usually do. This was different. I can't explain how I knew. I just knew. For the first time, they weren't just facing me. They were looking at me. Every face, every pair of eyes. My great-grandmother, my great-grandfather, relatives I'd never met. All of them watching. Without thinking, I grabbed my keys, unlocked the front door, and stepped outside. I didn't care that it was almost 4 in the morning. I didn't care that I was standing in my grandma's front yard in a t-shirt. I just needed to get away from that wall. I stayed outside until I saw Grandma's car pull into the driveway. She looked confused. Boy, what you doing outside this early? I looked back at the house, then back at her. Grandma, I don't think they like me. She didn't laugh. She didn't ask me what I meant. She just looked toward the living room window, real quiet. Then she looked back at me and said, "You looked at him, didn't you?" My heart dropped. "How do you know that?" She sighed, like I'd just confirmed something she'd hoped wasn't true. She reached into her purse for her house keys. Before unlocking the door, she said something I'll never forget. I told you when you was little, some things in this house are better left alone. She opened the door, walked inside, like nothing had happened. I stood there for another minute before I finally followed her. The living room looked normal. Every portrait was exactly where it had always been. Nothing was crooked. Nothing had changed. At least, not until I walked past the biggest portrait one last time out of the corner of my eye. I caught my own reflection in the glass. I stopped because there was only one reflection, mine. The portrait wasn't reflecting at all. I never told my grandma what else happened that morning, and I never slept in that living room again. Maybe I imagined all of it. Maybe exhaustion got the best of me. Or maybe the next time you wake up thirsty at your grandma's house, don't look at the portraits. Just get your water and keep walking. If what you just heard was true, then somewhere there's still a house where the portraits never stop watching. Maybe it was all in his head. Maybe exhaustion blurred the line between reality and fear. Or maybe some things were never meant to be looked at after midnight. The next time you wake up thirsty and have to walk through a dark house, you might remember this transmission. If you enjoyed tonight's broadcast and want to hear more true and fictional horror transmissions, subscribe to Red Frequency TV. Until next time, sleep with one eye open, and whatever you do, don't watch alone.